Welcome to the Helotes EDC meeting. It is Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. We'll call to order at 7:07. Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. I am John Kadowski, the secretary, acting as president, as Blaine Lopez has found a new parking lot called 1604. And we respect that. That's just fine. Let's get started. So we are discussing the agenda item number 2, a public hearing for proposed maintenance and operating interest sinking capital budgets for the fiscal year ending 2021. Do I need to open that for discussion?
Yes, you need to open it and call the time.
Oh, I thought I opened the public hearing at 7:07 p.m. Who wants to start discussing this?
Actually, no one signed up for the public hearing.
Okay. Well, then I guess we can officially close the public hearing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Wonderful. So I move to close the public hearing. Can I get a call to order on that?
You don't have to do a motion, you just close it with the time.
Close it at 7:08. Motion closed at 7:08. So we move to the open session. Citizens to be heard. Do we have anyone signed up there? Nope.
No one signed up.
Okay, so we will close the open session and move on to consent agenda items number 4 through 9. These are listed as routine and meant to be enacted in one motion unless someone has any questions.
John, they're actually 4 through 10.
4 through 10. My apologies. 4 through 10. Do we have anyone who wants to discuss any of those items individually? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items number 4 through 10?
I have a question on 6.
Okay. So we can open that up for discussion.
So you can pull that for individual, or do you want to you have just a question?
There are some errors in the documentation. We do have a new mayor nowadays. Homeschoolcraft is no longer the mayor.
Does it still have his name? Sorry. We'll make that correction. On what page was that?
Exhibit A, page 1, under tab 6.
Yes, thank you, on that first line.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we need to do anything with that, or are we good there?
No, we'll just make that correction.
Okay. So can I get an approval for consent agenda items 4 through 10 as written, other than the small amendment for correction of the name of our current mayor? Who's here?
I move to approve consent agenda items 4 through 10.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. That passes. So we are now on to items for individual consideration. Number 11, discussion and action on a resolution of the Board of Directors for the City of Palosa EDC, approving motions for the fiscal year ending 2022, maintenance and operating interest and sinking capital budgets in fiscal year ending 2022, proposed EDC budgets include economic development projects as defined by Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 505, Type B corporations, and authorizing the executive director to take all necessary steps to implement these provisions of the resolution, incorporating recitals, providing for severability, and adopting an effective date. Who wants to open that?
I'll motion to open that.
And a second?
Second.
Cool. We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Sorry I interrupted there. All right, let's talk about it, y'all. Who wants to start?
I guess it would be me, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Let me get my, I had one question I didn't get to address that I'm just not familiar with. The tenant improvements, we've got $150,000. Is that something that's moved from the 380 agreement, or is that, where does that tenant improvements come from?
That is a grant that we're looking at proposing, a tenant improvement grant for Highway 60. I put that in the one of the PowerPoints, that we're looking at doing $30,000 grant for tenant improvement for existing buildings that are already here for new tenants to come in, and then it would be basically a match you know, for whatever they put in, and we'll go up to $30,000, and it would be off of Highway 16, because those are the ones that we have vacancies.
Okay. Oh, so probably beyond the four-way, or not four-way stopping, or four-way right now. But beyond this one, going towards Old Town, most likely.
No, actually, it'll be actually anything on highway, on Bandera.
In the city that
Within
is
the
on
city.
16.
Right,
Or adjacent to, or what have you.
right.
Okay.
And during our work session, that's when we'll talk with the board about how we want to put the guidelines, what the restrictions and all that stuff.
Mhm.
The board will make that determination and we'll bring it back to y'all with those things like we've done with the other grants.
Gotcha.
So y'all can approve that.
Gotcha. Thank you. I'll go ahead and point out my couple other just thoughts on the budget here before it moves on from me, and we want to discuss it further. Great. I do think the EDC, in support of the city and future growth, a common goal that we should all have is that 1560 project. I think we all got this budget estimate. It changed. It was just, I guess, from year to year, that was an update that we had there, but I think supporting that is something that's a common goal between all of us, and, you know, would help us all, both organizations, future growth. So I think that's a great thing that we have in there in the budget for next year. We already talked about that. So the one concern that I have is the parades, marketplace, I guess, I want to say sponsorships. I feel like that's what it should be, more of a sponsorship, but it seems that we're covering all of those fees and expenses or hard costs that are associated with that. I know that the marketplace is a revenue generator. There is money that comes in there for that, and it's my understanding that that goes to the regular operating fund of the city. So, and then the parades, there's just line items that we go through on these individual things that we have on here that I don't necessarily think are associated with the EDC, candy, float supplies, you know, those type of things that, you know, putting on the event is one thing, but actually funding all of the other ancillary expenses, to me, seems excessive, and it's just something I wanted to bring up and possibly discuss if anyone else thought that was necessary. But, you know, I also think the EDC should get, and I think it was brought up from a few other board members, but some type of recognition for our involvement if we do continue with this program as it was started, I believe, back in 2020, that we get some type of recognition for our involvement in it, whether that be marketing with our name or what have you, that we're involved in it. The EDC is as in a partnership with the city. It is a city event, but hey, we're throwing a lot of money to it from our budget. So those are kind of my three things that I thought were important with that moving forward. And I do think it's interesting too that it's not a standing tradition that we pay for these things, but it was something that started back in 2020. There was obviously reasons for it from that prior board, and I understand that. It's just something to consider.
So you would feel comfortable with all of it as long as the EDC was acknowledged, recognized?
Yeah, and I would, and I'll leave it with a caveat that maybe we weren't paying for some of these ancillary things that I thought were not directly related to putting the event on, for the event to happen.
Gotcha.
Right? If we weren't paying for the float, for the candy of, you know, certain people, and some of these other things that are on that, let's see, I marked a few of them. The candy was the big thing, the float, some of the gifts and things like that went on, that's not really directly related to police, porta potties, and setup, right? That's needed, I guess, some flash show and different things for the parade. So I think those are directly related to putting the event on when some of the other ones may not be.
Well, I appreciate decreasing from 110 to 64,000, definitely. I too had some reservations about supporting Marketplace because of its profitability. And, you know, as you know, I considered it being considered a sponsorship and a lump sum. And then it's just, when we don't get a return on an investment that is profitable, I'm kind of leaning towards supporting wholeheartedly the carnival and the Christmas and not something that is profitable. Because you're getting that return and we're not on our investment. So that's where I am right now for marketing tourism.
Okay. So it would be your request that we are able to fund the Christmas and Carnival parades, not market days?
Because of the profitability of it, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So, forgive me for asking since this is my first meeting.
Well,
Uh,
good to have
Does-
you say, buddy.
Yeah, so my understanding is the city charges, was it like $60 a booth, isn't it?
It's $42.30 a booth.
The $42.30? And how many booths do you have?
We have designated 188 booths. 5 of them we don't charge for nonprofit, and then 5 of them the city holds back because sometimes we have parking issues and so forth. We have 11 events, but usually sometimes just with weather and so forth, we're averaging about 9 events per month. There are times that we do give money back to booths because maybe they're parking, spaces, people are parking in that space or they can't use that space. So we estimated around $62,000 to receive on that revenue. One of the things that we talked about, the reason that this came about, and I'm going to just give you history, Jeff, since you weren't here, it was actually brought by the last board to staff to look into supporting city events so that the city fund can be used for municipal functions. Because yes, you get money from the marketplace permit, just like we get money from warrant fees, from permit fees and so forth, but they were saying that the marketplace was actually started for economic development in Old Town because we had a lot of the shops there said that's the only time I make rent is when you have market because you bring people in to actually shop at Old Town, and it actually put Helotes on the map for that month and people come and we get hundreds of people. So that's how it kind of started. And so when we looked at that, I looked at all the events and I said EDC cannot sponsor all the events because EDC is only allowed to sponsor events with economic development kind of events. So when we looked at all the events that the city does, like movie nights or music nights or the 4th of July event, all that was not an economic development event. So the 3 that was looked at was the 2 parades because it happens where people come out and they go along the either 16 and Old Town, and then there's events after that. There's always events held at Old Town after that, so that people can shop or eat or whatever else, and then also the marketplace. So those were the 3 that came out. When I did a cost analysis, I said that this is what it costs to hold the event, which is about $63 minus staffing. That doesn't include any of the public works, any of the extra bailiffs, the special events, or any of extra staff that we might need. During the 2 parades, we have all staff on board because we just don't have enough with just event staff and public works. So we have all of our executive staff as well as any of our hourly staff help with the 2 parades. So truthfully, to run all 3 events, it's about $109,000 to run all 3 events. So when we came back, we were like, it should be a co-sponsored event. It shouldn't just be EDC. So instead of asking for 109, like they had put in the budget last year, we're asking for about 64, which is, and the reason we gave the list was because I wanted to show EDC, this is exactly what it's spent on. There is reasoning for it, this is what it's spent on. And then, but we said it doesn't have the extra, any of the police officers, or any of the police officers that are within Helotes or any of our staff, we're not asking for a reimbursement or a sponsorship for that. That's just coming out of the city funds. And so that was how this whole thing came about in 2020, was because so that funds can be, city funds can be used for municipal functions such as public safety, increasing maybe salaries, which we were able to do that in the city's budget because we're able to actually give city employees between 2.5 and 4% merit raise, for the 4% going to police officers, because we're not having to just support these events alone.
So you say, so it's about 109 total cost for those 3 events?
Yes.
How, is that your total cost minus what you bring in?
No.
And how much do you bring in for those 3 events?
We only bring in for one event, which is the marketplace, and it's about 62,000.
Okay, so you're spending about 47,000 a year then for those 3 events?
Yeah, for that event. For other events, I mean, it adds, we do a total of about, minus the 26, we do another 12 events for the city out throughout the year.
Right, but with those 3 events, it's costing the city about 47,000.
Correct.
That's your question. Greg, anything?
No, I think I agree with what has been said up to this point. I don't know that we should be sponsoring some of the things that we are. Candy, for one, for me, is kind of a difficult thing with COVID and everything else going on. You know, throwing candy out is just kind of, not just the recognition part, but I think that spreading germs right now is a top concern for a lot of people. So, and we're not, there's nothing on it that says, you know, we're involved, EDC is involved.
William, welcome.
Hey, glad to be here, sorry for my tardiness.
You found a parking lot, that's what we said when we started. So. And since you're not in the president role tonight, you can actually share your opinion freely.
I didn't get to hear everybody else's comments on it. Thank you, Mary, for the presentation on it. I kind of understand what the discussion here, but what is the actual item that we're,
It's the actual budget.
okay, so it's the budget, so you're describing the difference or what's happening in the budget from
Right,
this
well,
budget to the
yeah.
last.
The one of the things that Joel was saying was the event, supporting the events, and then Jeff didn't have the history on why it came up, you know, and then I was just giving the history on why it came up.
Okay. I'm good on my end.
Okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So on 5211, 510, 5211, I just noticed that that was considerable jump. Can you just give us a little background on that from, let's see here, we got 75,000 proposed, but when at 30?
Right, so Glenn and I sat down, Glenn actually proposed, some things that we were looking at on some things.
That's not the date.
What was the before that? Yeah,
It's
it's just at the
75.
year. I'm just looking at the year. So
Oh.
if
It's
they have
$75, yeah. So basically, it's in 4 different categories that we actually put, we were doing, EDC marketing, that's all we used to have it in, but we've actually decided to have marketing money for tourism, for EDC, for, what was the other category?
So we have destination marketing, business marketing, event marketing, and then EDC marketing.
So the asterisks were the new items, the destination marketing and the business marketing, those were the new items from the 2019.
Right.
That's really what made it go up so much.
Right.
Okay, okay, thank you. And I have, let's see here. Business grant 33, I don't see on here. That was the presentation before us, the 50,000. What happened to 5233?
E-commerce
Yes.
acceleration.
E-commerce accelerated incentive program, but it's, which one?
You did e-commerce.
The e-commerce, we increased it, it was actually at 50,000, we increased it at 30 because we're not spending the monies this year because, they're still pending. So we're not gonna actually finish giving out that grant money that we had designated, actually 75,000 this year. We're not gonna actually finish giving that. We have 4 that are pending as of right now, so we want to carry forward, 30,000 of it to be able to fund the 4 that are pending, and then have the 50,000 for anyone that applies next year.
I just didn't see the line item in the budget.
The line item is now,
Oh, you changed, okay.
Yeah, just change the business improvement grant.
What number is that?
5223.
Yes.
5223. Oh, it's all income.
It's all
It's
income,
all,
yes,
I got
uh-huh.
you. Okay, great, thank you. Okay. And then, I guess the same was for, 510, 5333, the 380 agreement.
I explained that within the budget adjustment, so
Yeah.
what it is when we talk to the auditors, we have to end up doing a budget amendment at the end of each year because it correlates with the income. That money is actually designated, we can't spend it on anything else. So the money that comes in from the sales tax of our 380 agreement has to be basically designated and funded back out and paid back out. So instead of having a expense line item, what it should have been done since we had the 380 agreement, which started in 2017, it should have always been in the revenue. So what it should have been is you have a revenue, you minus it, or you have a separate fund. Well, that's costly for any city or EDC because it goes out within 60 days of coming in. So you're gonna be paying all your bank fees and so forth to have a separate fund. So instead of doing that, we talked to the auditors and they do it at the end of the year anyway. So I was saying, why can't we do it within our budget? And she says you could not, and she's just not sure why previous administration did it the other way. It's not wrong to do it the other way, but you end up having to do a lot of budget amendments or do major budget amendment, take out from your reserves and put it back in your reserves. And so it just ends up looking kind of messy within your budget, so you just take it out of your revenues. And so that's why you'll see a decrease on our estimated for our projected revenues. That actually has a 380 agreement payment expense taken out. And this shows a true budget because that shows what you can actually spend.
Great.
Yeah, so before it was showing up like we had it, but it was actually already.
Already designated out, right, because you have an agreement and you can't spend it any other way.
Can I ask a question about that? I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
that's
one.
but I have more, but go ahead.
On the total revenues, since we were looking at that one,
Mhm.
I've heard us speak about this being, a banner year of revenues because of certain companies and their sales that they've had and tax revenue. Do we really think that is the rounding 100,000, 103,000 more over our projection for this year as our revenue for next year? Is that truly feasible, we feel like?
Yeah, so what you usually do with anything else, because you do either a 3 or 5 year average to figure out your revenues, because you don't want to project something that you're not going to get and
Right.
extend it out.
Right.
So what usually you do is a 5 year actual average to figure out, unless you're guaranteed that trend.
Mm-hmm.
We're not guaranteed that
Right.
trend. So what we did is we did a 3 year average, and that's how we came up with our revenue.
Okay.
I'm just going through the presentation that we have and the slide on the pedestrian bridge. Just a question about the completion, the status,
The Lomar,
and the bridge lighting.
the bridge lighting is
Yeah.
complete.
It's all complete.
Yeah, the poles are complete. The other one, we actually have it in there for if we want to end up doing any kind of lighting, but we don't know if we're going to do any lighting, you know what I mean?
That additional lighting.
Additional lighting,
This is all
because we have
complete.
not gotten anything back saying that we can do, lighting on it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
We had 25,000.
Yeah, actually, there was an incorrection on the capital improvements, it should have 25,000 in there for that extra lighting if we get it improved.
That was just the organization.
The Lomar, well, that shouldn't be the Lomar.
That was a little more, I think.
Okay, so that, yeah, the capital improvements.
So there's nothing there now, there should be 25,000.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. That's all my questions.
Okay. Sure. Anyone else?
So that would bring our total surplus to an estimated 35,000.
Yes.
Around up to 60. Sorry, I'm not speaking now, I'm mumbling to myself. So that brought our total net to a positive 35,000 rather than the 60,000 I had. Question, just because it doubled, the conceptual design land use plans 5208. Is there actual plans for that? Is there anticipation that something's going to be needed?
So initially, we increased it. Take a moment.
The other guy who sits here.
Gets me every time.
It
Initially, we increased it at the beginning of the budget discussion. We were also in discussion with purchasing commercial property, and there was an opportunity to start working on conceptual.
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
So we can actually zero that out, lower it, because at this point, there is no plans, but that is up to the board at this time.
Melody?
I'm sorry, I saw one more. Legal fees went up 2,000. Is that correct?
Yes, because we have been actually, just different things, we actually go to our lawyer, to ask for clarification that we should be doing.
We all good? All right. You don't have to apologize, you can ask as many questions as you want, that's why we're here. That's the whole point. Are we ready to vote?
I have a question on voting. If we wanted to try to make a change, do we do that here, or do we just vote no and then try to amend that? How does that work?
You can actually give me direction here, and then y'all vote on that change as part of your motion, saying you want to make it, you know what I mean?
Change and
Uh-huh.
vote on that. Makes sense. We all had a comment, at least, on the city events part of it. Do we want to make any changes with that? Is there any recommendation, thoughts, or others? I mean, we talked about it, but didn't actually have any. I like that it's sponsoring, just saying we are now the premier sponsor of all these three city events, right? To where, you know, that it gets us not only the marketing side of it and those type of things, but we're not involved with all of the other, you know, line items, single item things. We just, in essence, write a check. I mean, the number that I had in my mind is $50,000. And we say, hey, here we go, we're sponsoring these three events, and, you know, here's the check, and y'all do with it as you need to for these three events, is the intention.
So currently, do they provide invoices for expenses and then we reimburse off the invoices, or how does it work?
That is correct.
So you bring us an invoice for trash pickup, 5 porta johns, and then somebody has to go through there and verify those and do all of that?
That is correct.
I think from a time standpoint, it would be a lot easier just to cut the city a check, like you're saying, Joel. And just be done with it.
And I think we said 47,000 was the net difference too, as far as the profit made. Is the 62, is that what we're projecting for this
It's
year?
projecting.
Is that an average based on last year's?
Last
Or
year's-
not last year, but previous year?
Previous years it varied. It was, sometimes it was 70, sometimes it was 60, sometimes it was 80. We did have more booths. We
Gotcha.
had over 230 booths.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
If I have to make a motion, it would be for the line item, I can read what the last year, 5230, marketing city events, to be the premier sponsor of Christmas, Carnival, and Marketplace city events, and to provide that sponsorship of $50,000. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, but
Yeah.
I don't want the president to see that.
No,
No.
I just get to sit here and smile. It's great.
It's a bad.
Oh, is that how it is? That how it is?
That's exactly how it is. I'm just here to look good. I have the small guy. Does anybody have a second on that motion from Joel?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that motion passes on that amendment. Anything else? Anything else we would like to modify? Okay.
Yeah, I had one other thing, just to ask a question on the personnel salaries. You had mentioned the city was doing some type of 4% increase?
Only to police.
Oh, only to police,
Yes.
okay. Because they had gotten one right over the last like year or two or something?
No, they've all gotten one, but what happens is that there was kind of a pendulum type thing where fire got a little bit more one year, and then police got, and then this year was the time for police to get a year. Yeah.
Can we do it one year?
Well, and that's what we're hoping, like, this will get everybody even,
Right.
between the two public safety, and it will get us, in a competitive pay
Right,
scale, pay
right.
range, and that in future years, we won't have to be doing that.
So this, I said this earlier, when the meeting wasn't started, but, you know, with inflation the way it is, and it seems like, I assume that city staff is not getting a raise or things like that right now that we know of. Because haven't we kept pace with what they do? Is that not, that's the standard practice?
That's what's in here. basically.
Gotcha, same thing, okay.
Do we have any other amendments to the budget that we would like to make a motion on? Or are we good the way that it is with the decrease from 64 to 50,000 on line item 5230? We good there?
Yeah, do we have to make a motion to add that 25,000 in there for capital improvements? Just to, so
Yeah,
officially
That would
gets
be
in
the
there?
two official.
There we go.
Okay.
So we need a motion to amend that additional $25,000 for capital improvements. Which line was that?
It's under other.
Under other.
Yeah, we don't have a GL code yet.
Gotcha. Under other. Can we get that motion from someone?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes as well. Okay, so we're checking that box. Very good. And then presumably we need a motion for the budget itself,
Correct.
agenda item number 11. Okay. Can I get a motion on agenda item number 11 for approval?
I motion that we approve the budget for item number, 11
With the amendments.
with the amendments.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Good job, everybody. Moving on to number 12, discussion and action on the election of officers for the EDC Board of Directors, as required by the EDC restated and amended articles of incorporation. Article 10, Board of Directors included not limiting to President, Vice President, Secretary. And I get a motion to discuss agenda item number 12.
I will motion when we discuss agenda item number 12.
And a second.
Second.
Fantastic. So here we just need to basically vote on what everybody's doing. I vote we need a vice president.
Yes.
Anything happen, it doesn't say that you cannot.
No, that's fine. Blaine, you've been doing this for a while now. Do you want to keep doing it?
I would like to, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep the role as president. All right. I've been doing secretary here for a year now, and I can say I've enjoyed it because it carries with it near zero responsibility unless you get stuck in traffic.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'm fine continuing secretary if everyone's all right with that. I would like to get a vice president just so we're a little bit more formal. We have that box kind of checked. What's everybody think? If nobody wants to do it, I will do vice president. I don't have a problem stepping in whenever Blaine's not here. Oh, you like me? Oh, that's what
Yeah.
Blaine's here now.
Yeah.
As vice president, I like you as vice president.
Do I get to actually, since I'm not sitting in the president's seat, do I get to make motions now?
Yeah, but we need a nomination for secretary now.
Okay, so if we actually had a nomination for John as vice, then we would need somebody to nominate.
Yes.
Nominate for secretary. And the duties of the secretary are just so clear.
Shockingly little.
Usually secretary will be the one that does minutes and so forth, but we actually have our assistant
Right.
that does the minutes, so.
Oh,
uh,
then
No problem. As long as we got Glenn here. As long as we don't have the three main
And
seats up
YouTube.
there.
We've got Glenn and YouTube, we're double
Yeah.
covered.
So do we have to vote?
Can you make a motion?
Nomination, yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion for nominations for the roles of president, vice president, and secretary?
I will motion as discussed.
Okay,
Second the motion.
wonderful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Congratulations, everyone. Motion passes.
Congratulations, y'all. We should celebrate.
Yes.
I'm done. All right, moving on to staff report item number 13. E-commerce accelerator grant program and Google 360 virtual business tours.
So, we launched the e-commerce accelerator grant in mid-July, which admittedly, you know, in this fiscal year, was going to be a challenge for the business owner and for the contractor. We did end up getting 6 applicants. We had to deny one of them. Like I said, they did not want to use an outside bidder. They wanted to use in-house staff to do digital promotion or website redevelopment. And part of the agreement, as the board approved, is we had to have a third party do those that implementation or design work. Currently, the board has approved Let's Insurance and Be Daddy Barbecue. We have pending Congelato and Subway. The only thing pending on those 2 is getting a scope of work and an income verification for their business here in Helotes. Are there any questions on those e-commerce grants?
So we had 6 total applicants. Of those 6, 1 was denied.
Correct.
Okay, so we had
How
5.
are we marketing that?
So we've sent out e-blasts for all the business owners' contact information we have. I want to say we have over 120 or 30 emails. We don't have everyone, but we are continuing to update that database. We've done social media promotions. It's on the homepage of the EDC website. So as soon as you pop up, it's e-commerce grant. That's all you see. We took down our videos and stuff. I've personally called businesses. I've dropped off flyers for businesses. The application is not due to a lack of interest. It is more, there was concerns over timing from several. They think a lot of businesses have other issues right now with employee retention and survival still, that they're not focused on this. And that's kind of why I put it, I requested that we add it to next fiscal year, that I'm confident we'll have a lot more applications moving forward.
What is the 6th business? There's only 5 listed.
1 was denied.
There's a 9
You were correct, and I did not know how to add. Those were all 5 businesses.
Yeah, because we have 4 pending.
Okay.
Is there any way for us to try and roll that in to help them with an employee retention in any way? I mean, probably not, but just spitballing.
No, there's a lot of different things being discussed. I know even on the chamber side, a lot of the members have reached out, needing help with job promotion. The chamber's redeveloping their website to better advertise job postings. That's not going to solve it, obviously. Reach out to the Workforce Commission to see about hosting a job fair. But again, I bet we could get 100 businesses to show up to set up a booth, but getting applicants to show up.
This is the challenge for everyone.
Yeah, we had gone to one when we were giving the grants out, and she actually had an opening, and she had over 100 people apply, and no one showed up to interview.
Wow. Wow. That's one heck of a statistic.
Right, I even saw Bill Miller here on Bandera Road just increased their starting salary to $12 an hour. I know Waterburger, even though it's outside of Helotes, I talked with them, the floor sweeper gets $11 an hour.
Wow.
So they're,
At Rudy's, the busboy gets $15 an hour.
Rudy's?
That's why the barbecue sucks. That's one brisket. One pound of brisket right there.
He's better than there.
Are we doing as we discussed with the before and after type of situation where we'll be able to show
The
the
analytics?
improvement?
Yes, yes. They are required to submit before they can start improvements, so we have a baseline.
Good
And
documentation.
if they don't already have the analytics embedded into their site, the new contractor is doing that, to at least have some type of baseline. It may not be as accurate if you start.
We'll just look at the traffic, right? How many clicks?
Right. Yes.
Right.
So before their new site gets launched, you're at least gonna have 60 to 90 days of data, even if you're just now embedding an analytic component. The other program that the EDC launched, and honestly we expended all the funds for it, was the Google virtual tours. We were able to help 22 businesses, I want to say get listed. There was a handful that were not listed in Google, so our contractor does update that for them. And then he does virtual tours. You'll be able to go on Google, and here pretty soon on Shop Helotes, we've got several of them uploaded, where you can then walk through the business. It's like you're getting a tour. In the packet, there's kind of a quick picture snapshot. The contractor also goes through and takes professional photos of your business and certain products that they'll choose. And so he ended up, out of those 22 businesses, took 325 high-resolution photos for those 22 businesses that they can now use in marketing.
Thank you, Glenn. Any other questions there? All right. Item
Sounds
number
like it's
14.
on the right way.
John, I just want to make sure did y'all vote on the consent? I know you took a motion and a second. Was there an actual vote?
It was not a vote.
Okay, we need to actually vote on the consent. So there was a motion and a second, but there was not an actual vote.
Okay, on which one again?
On the consent item from 4 to 10.
Oh, I thought I did that. I'm so sorry. I'll do it again if it makes everybody happy. I don't mind.
The motion was Greg and seconded by Melody. It just was not an all in favor.
Oh, okay, so let's back up real quick, everybody. Consent agenda items number 4 through 10. We had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Box is checked. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. Mayor's report item number 14. Please, everyone, welcome. Mayor White.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and speak. First thing I want to say is thank you very much for your service. It's a very valuable job you guys do. As with all our boards, it helps make our city run smooth, and I appreciate all your work. Quality people yield quality work, and you make Helotes a better place, so I want to thank you very much. I'm speaking today because I get out quite a bit, and every once in a while I hear rumors about everything, good, bad, and there were a couple of concerns that I'd heard that some people might have some concerns regarding my intentions and actions as mayor concerning my involvement with businesses. Here to speak on a number of things that's written in the agenda, and I'm starting with this. The first thing I want to do is have an open and honest and transparent dialogue between the EDC and my office. Today I want to share my view of my role as mayor with respect to businesses, the collaboration of EDC, Chamber of Commerce, and the mayor's office to discuss some fiscal responsibilities, and then to outlay some concepts for EDC to consider. Concerning my role as mayor, this is not my kingdom. There are many differences between me and my predecessor. I am here solely to make Helotes a better place. I want to address some much needed financial reform to ensure a solid future, and I want to advocate for the voices of the citizens, its businesses, and its employees. And I want to address and have addressed some inefficiencies so we can enhance our city services and reduce burdens on our city citizens. I've historically had, currently have, and intend to continue to have close interaction with business owners. I do this so I can understand the current challenges that businesses face, so I can listen to the concerns and the ideas of businesses, and so I can identify potential needed changes in local ordinances, rules, laws, and regulations. I want to have close communication with the EDC and Chamber of Commerce One, so I can replace rumors with facts. Two, so I can provide appropriate support for both organizations. And three, so I can expedite cooperative response to the needs of the community. The collaboration between EDC, Chamber, and the Mayor's Office is that it has three different organizations with three completely different functions and three different methods of business support. The EDC, of course, provides business recruitment and enhancement. Chamber provides a nice network to build contacts as well as work through business issues. And the Mayor's Office helps redesign regulations and ordinances to streamline effective operations. You should know that I support and advocate for the EDC and the Chamber of Commerce everywhere I go to build support and confidence amongst the three organizations, as well as primarily to provide a sense of community support for business owners. Speaking about some fiscal responsibilities, the first responsibility is having honest and transparent and factual discussions about finance. And I don't know where to stick this point, so I'm just going to stick it right in here. When we talk about various expenditures, and I think you brought up a point about, well, we'd rather support something that is not so much not profitable versus ones that are profitable. The EDC's purpose is to provide money almost solely for the benefit of profitable businesses. So by definition, that is exactly what we do. So I want to encourage you, and as we look at things, it's look at the big picture as opposed to the individual line item per se, and look what you're all trying to accomplish. And I think you guys did a great job today. When I took over Helotes, excuse me, there's a comment there, punctuation matters. When I took over, Helotes was in the worst financial shape it has been in decades. Okay, we were down to 2.4 months worth of reserves. We are in constant threat of losing police and fire officers due to low pay. Our recruiting efforts yield feeble results. You mentioned that you had a lady had 100 people sign up. Police and fire usually get 20 or 30, and all 20 or 30 will show up. Now we're getting 1 or 2 or 0 apply and 0 show up. And this is not for being busboy or whatever the example is. This is for enforcing our laws and protecting our people. This is a serious issue. National social issues and agendas have deflated the desire for public safety positions. Nobody wants to be a policeman anymore. They're tired of having rocks thrown at them, shy at. And what happened last year was, in my mind, an atrocity on the good men of both blue uniforms. Helotes just lost 3 employees in the last 2 weeks due to pay concerns, and we're in danger of losing another. Helotes city budget is razor thin. This is a turnaround year, and I'm happy to say that we're making great strides in efficiencies, and I believe the turnaround is in place, and we have a bright future, but it is thin. We had to, once again, face a reduction in health insurance coverage with small pay adjustments, and currently really no room to add employees beyond replacement of recent resignations. When I take a look at EDC roles and considerations, they cover, the EDC roles covers really 2 main areas, third if you want to count city events. You have the development of vacant land and empty retail shelves, which is expensive, but the last conversation we had, we're down to 4 pieces of vacant land and 9 empty shelves. And of course, the other end of the spectrum is maintaining and enhancing existing business traffic, which is a long-term maintenance of the business community and is certainly a less expensive. It's certainly a higher cost to acquire a customer than it is to keep a customer. And then, of course, city events, such as market days. The EDC cycles starts being, when I say city first starts, as being 100% business development, because they don't have any businesses, with 0% maintenance, and eventually moves through that cycle to become 0% development, because you're fully developed, and 100% maintenance. And certainly the needs, financial needs of the EDC would change on a variable scale throughout that process, right? You would need more money to develop your community than you would need at the other end just to maintain your community. This past 5 years, there has been a budget surplus of $2 million in the EDC since 2016. And the final effect here, in fact, is Helotes gets 1% of the sales tax rate. We support 80+ total employees and all the functions, and EDC gets half of that budget with one dedicated employee and the programs it serves. And the question that I put that, and the reason why I bring this up as perspective, is we think about how much do we need to actually operate EDC and fulfill our functions in light of what we need to operate as complete as a city. I wanted to give a couple of thoughts for future consideration. In the past, the mayor would push projects, and that is not my position. What is my position is that every dollar EDC gets should be considered an investment and should yield a return on investment. These are the people's monies, and the purpose of EDC is really just that, as a corporation to generate a profit. And we need radical ideas that aren't just coming from the mayor to build whatever projects. And that's why I don't want to come with specific ideas. I want to come to you with suggestions I hear from the field, things that I hear, put them before you, and you guys decide what you think is best to do with the people's money. But we do need radical ideas that turn $10,000 worth of EDC investment into $1 million worth of money for the city. These ideas, again, need to come from you and not to be, you're not my tool. You are a board that I respect and is autonomous. There are other models. Having an EDC as a wholly owned corporation of the city gives us the ability to have direct investment that we couldn't do if we just had an EDC board, if you will. Live Oak is an example of a city that has an EDC panel and not a separate corporation. They're limited to what they can do, yet they were able to attract IKEA, I think about 6 or 7 new restaurants here recently. I'm not suggesting the elimination of EDC. Please do not hear me incorrectly. What I want to have is an honest dialogue about the future and how we define EDC and its budgets. I'm asking that in your work sessions and in your executive sessions that you consider some of these following questions. What do we need such large reserves for? We have $2 million worth of reserves. Clearly, grants in this past pandemic utilized our full budget. We didn't really have a whole lot of surplus this past year or two. But there's very limited property even available left. And certainly it has to be for sale in order to be able to purchase it. Running an average of $400,000 surplus each year, the question is how much money does EDC need to operate? In that vein, I'm very thankful for EDC's adoption of the 1560 expansion. If you take a look at our budget and trying to restore some financial stability to the city, there's not the money there to do that project, yet we would be required by law to do so. EDC seeing that that is an economic development opportunity and jumping on that project is a tremendous benefit to all the citizens of Helotes, and I thank you very much for that. I think it's very appropriate and it's very much appreciated. And in doing so, negates a little bit of the topic I'm talking about for this next year. You're obviously not going to have a surplus, but if you hadn't spent that, you would have had $280,000 there, plus another 60 or 50,000 on reimbursements to the city, etc. And it just seems more appropriate that instead of the city giving a bunch of money over here and then trying to claw some back to cover some expenses to make it ends meet, that maybe it's more appropriate that we change the percentages of what comes over and make it nice and clean. Much like you guys just discussed the revenues coming in from the 380 agreement. You don't get these revenues and have a big expense, just short of what the revenues are coming in and spend all of it on exactly the programs that you need to spend it on. We are looking for progressive ideas, and I do have realistic acknowledgement of the needs of the EDC and look for the best use of these sales tax dollars. We are putting forth, as you well know, on the ballot this year, that extra 0.25% of sales tax. Anybody that has been around me long enough in these past couple months knows that I'm not looking to just one specific division of the city to fix all of our financial problems. We're taking a look at every single little bit from every division helps bring the city finances around. Similarly, as we take a look at between, for example, city and EDC, I'm not looking for the EDC to solve all our financial problems either. Every single city surrounding us is charging the full 8.25%. We're the only municipality that is not, and that will certainly provide much needed funds to address our immediate needs as far as addressing some police and fire and public works salary issues, because we can ill afford to lose any of these valued employees. Can't replace them. There's no applicants. Nobody wants to do it. And I do not want to even contemplate what kind of position we'd be in if we face an unemployment crisis, if you will. But we don't have the money to pay what we should be paying. We have some fantastic employees and officers and police and fire and our public works, and our city's quality of life depends upon maintaining them, if you will. And so when we've had conversations before about what is it that makes your job as EDC tenable, going out and bringing somebody to Helotes is easier than, say, bringing them to Detroit. Nobody wants to move to Detroit for a good reason. It's you take your life in your own hands, just crossing the street for crime. We don't have that issue here, and that is because of our fantastic police and fire services. So I'm looking very hard to protect that. So I ask you to individually, we can't promote it as a city, just as individuals, in your individual conversations to promote voting for that 0.25% sales tax, because that will help the city address its immediate needs. Long term, we really am asking you to consider what is the appropriate budget for the projects you need to survive. When you take a look at your budget and you have $1.2 million net, and you're spending $350,000 on city stuff, would it not be more appropriate to just not take that money in and then therefore not have to spend money back on the city, and therefore the net sum of that overall action provides a much more stable budget for the city to operate on and maintains the autonomy of the EDC. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm here begging for money. What I'm asking for is a intelligent conversation on your all's behalf as you take a look at where you are in the life cycle of an EDC at a city that is near 100% developed. Council's roles. City Council is responsible for signing off on strategic plans and large expenditures, as the EDC is wholly owned by the city, but it's not our job to tell you how to do it. And I firmly stand by that. I'm not looking to subvert you. I'm not here to pull you guys by the side and tell you to do my projects, or I'm going to appoint somebody else. That is not at all my intentions, and I want to make sure that is abundantly clear. I've nominated, and we've appointed several of you, and the rest of you have been here for a while, and I hope you guys all continue to serve for as long as you want to, because I feel like you're doing a great job, and I have a great deal of respect for you. I'm certainly not seeking fame, fortune, or advancement. We're merely just trying to best manage the resources of the city to provide for the most secure future for Helotes. So I'm going to conclude and just ask you that you consider the purpose of EDC, where you are in the life cycle, your actual needs of the programs that EDC should be behind, and ask yourself how much is enough in reserves for an ever decreasing need for development, and ask how and when do we scale back towards a maintenance-minded budget as opposed to a growth and development-minded budget. Once again, I thank you very much for your service. There's no immediate danger or harm or not pressing anything or throwing anything to vote or anything like that. I just wanted to be clearly transparent to you guys and honest and upfront and see you face to face. I'm not looking to do drastic things or force my will upon you all. I'm just here to share with you exactly where we are as a city and how we work together, because yes, we're separate, but yet we are one. And we are here not for our own interests, we're here for the betterment of the citizens of Helotes. And we're thin on our end, and we're thankfully to the good work of EDC and also other efforts of people like the Chamber of Commerce. People wanted to be here in Helotes, and you've done an excellent job of filling out the city. I thank you for that and all the past decades of work of the EDC. But now we're starting into a different chapter in our existence, and so I'm just hoping that we can have an open and honest dialogue and have all my cards out on the table. There's nothing hidden about anything I am thinking, so I just wanted to make sure that you all see that and understand that my intention here is to have honest dialogue, and then we do what's best for the city. I guess this is an agenda item, so I don't know if there's any questions or thoughts.
I'd like to speak first. Thank you for being here. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday after I'm sure you had a long day. So we certainly appreciate you coming and talking to us and sharing your ideas. I would like to say something to just point out. Blaine and I are the oldest two people here in 2 years.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of turnover, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. What I want you to know is we are all trying to come up with great ideas, and we're all kind of trying to get to know each other too. Jeff's first day, doing a great job. Heck for me, but so I agree with you wholeheartedly. I am not going to speak to the amount that we have in reserves. I can tell you that we are trying to do big things that will benefit the city of Palosa. We're all here because we love this town, and we want to see it continue to be as great as what it is. So yeah, I agree with you. We're trying to do great things with you guys too. So I appreciate your time.
And thank you very much. I appreciate the interaction, and John, you've had excellent points in our interaction in the past. I recognize y'all have been here for 20 years, if you will, but the EDC has, and has done an excellent job. You're part of an excellent organization, and that is the challenge, to figure that out. What is appropriate, and due to the fact that you haven't been here for 10 or 15 years, it takes a little time to figure that out, and I have the utmost confidence that you guys will figure out what is the right balance as you take a look at what you really want to do in the future and what's actually required to do it, and then balance that in the scope of the bigger picture of how that interacts with the city and what could be available for needed services within the city.
And I will also say, you do go out and you are very interactive with the citizens and the businesses. I personally encourage you to bring ideas of what you're hearing. Truthfully, we'd love to hear them, because we don't get out as much as what you do. I also ask that you don't feel disparaged if we disagree with you, and don't do that. Whatever that may be, if that may occur. But we are here to work together, and you're the one in charge of being out there and communicating with the residents. So please bring us ideas. I know I would love to hear them.
I certainly will, and I promise not to get my feathers ruffled if you don't like my ideas.
Mr. Mayor, when does the sales tax increase, when does that go to vote?
So the 0.25% sales tax will be on the ballot. Early voting starts October 18th, I believe, and the final election date is November 2nd.
Okay.
It is coming up directly. The city cannot expend funds or efforts on promoting, saying vote yes or anything like that. All they can do is, which I believe there's a brochure in the hallway listing facts, frequently asked questions, what it would yield, what it would be used for, etc.
Yeah, and this is just me, because it took me a while to figure out that the sales tax is different here than if you're just right down the street.
Right.
So I bet you if you ask 70% of the citizens, they don't even know.
They probably don't know, and the reality of it is the vast majority of our sales taxes actually gets paid by surrounding areas, if you will.
Right.
A lot of Helotes residents go and purchase things in San Antonio, and you get that crisscross, right? So it really doesn't make, it's not a big burden. In fact, it's a very minimal, and quite honestly becomes equitable taxing those that can afford to spend it.
Right.
It really doesn't put the excess burden on us, and it's not like a car rental. You rent a car for $20 plus $175 Alamo Dome tax and $300 this tax. Yeah. So,
On sales tax, I have another question. It kind of goes back to market days. I don't know if this is the right place or not. Does the city verify that the vendors are actually paying Helotes sales tax? So that they're not using their San Antonio address or their Bernie address or whatever and paying sales tax?
that's a very good question. We get a report from the state, but I believe it comes in quarterly and then an annual. So it's very, if I'm to be honest with you, I can't tell you if last month if all 188 vendors paid their sales tax or paid their appropriate sales tax. But there is a mechanism that at the quarterly annual report to see who has, and when you take a look there and you say, this person hasn't been here for 5 years and hasn't paid sales tax at all, for example, or annually, we catch them quarterly, whatever, however frequently we catch them, we can approach them and provide some oversight for that. It's very difficult to do. You can't do it day of, right, because they haven't submitted it, and you can only catch it in reserve in arrears as you do an event audit, if you will. I do know that we're getting quite a bit of sales tax from that. There is no doubt, but the purpose of that whole event, of course, is really economic development of our businesses. Our local businesses thrive when we have market days, and they struggle when we don't. So it is purely economic development, effort of love. It takes a lot to put those on.
I would suggest possibly notifying the Chamber of Commerce of the upcoming vote, as they may be a way to market that to residents or other businesses through their avenues, since the city cannot.
I will be doing that as an individual. Thank you. Excellent idea.
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right. And that concludes the mayor's report. So we are on to agenda item number 15, a closed session. So we will enter.
We don't need to go into closed session this time.
We will eliminate item number 15. Fastest closed session.
We don't have enough of it right now.
Great. All right. So I guess that means we adjourn. Do we need a motion? Yeah. All right. Let's adjourn 8:14. Everyone, thank you.